Xiaoyan sat in front of the enormous cauldron. His eyes were grave as he observed the lovely little figure within the cauldron. He inhaled a couple of breaths and slowly opened his mouth after his heart had completely calmed down. Bang! After Xiaoyan opened his mouth, a purple-brown fire pillar that contained a dense whiteness was spat out. It soared with the wind and turned into a monstrous flame, which poured into the enormous cauldron. With the appearance of the heavenly flame, the temperature quickly rose. Some of the towering trees in the mountain forest began to shed some leaves at this moment. The flame whistled into the enormous cauldron and gathered together under Xiaoyan's nearly flawless control. Within a short moment, a huge fire dragon was formed within the enormous cauldron. Roar! The fire dragon roared at the sky when it formed. That roar shook the enormous cauldron until it trembled. Refine! Xiaoyan's hand seal suddenly changed outside of the enormous cauldron. A soft cry was emitted from his mouth. Following the appearance of this cry, the enormous fire dragon charged toward Ziyin, who was sleeping with her eyes shut. When it was about to collide with her body, it swiftly turned and curled up. It used its body to wrap around her. At the same time, the temperature within the large cauldron suddenly rose to a frightening extent. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. When the temperature suddenly rose, numerous rays of light rushed out from all over the Dragon Island, after which they stopped above the surrounding mountains with solemn expressions. These were the tribe members of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. They appeared to be aware of the matter today. Hence, none of them made any noise. They were worried of disturbing Xiaoyan's focus. Xiaoyan did not have the time to worry about these surrounding observers. At this moment, all of his attention had gathered inside the large cauldron. The spiritual strength between his brows surged out in all directions to control the temperature of the flame. The flame within the large cauldron fiercely burned. Although the flame blocked their eyes, the scene within was still clearly absorbed into the minds of Elder Zhu Li and the other experts. The fire dragon curled and entrenched itself. Numerous extremely hot fire pillars continuously shot from its large mouth. They lingered around Ziyan's body within the large cauldron. Following the erosion by such a frightening temperature, the dragon phoenix crystal on Ziyan's body emitted a faint but unusual glow. Light flickered over the crystal layer. It appeared like a flowing body that emitted wave after wave of frightening energy, which caused one's heart to be frightened. Heavenly flames continuously spat on Ziyan's body. However, the dragon phoenix crystal did not show any signs of changing. Nevertheless, Xiaoyan did not panic a little. If it was so easy to melt this thing, Elder Zhu Li would not have invited him to act. Xiaoyan's expression was indifferent. His eyes were slowly shut as a mysterious flame gently flickered within them. There was nothing that cannot be incinerated by a heavenly flame. This was the case for everything, including this dragon phoenix crystal. The sky was dry and hot. It was as though all the moisture had been vaporized in an instant. The entire mountain appeared to be lethargic under this high temperature. Even the lush green color that filled the area had become much dimmer. No one paid any attention to the changes of the surroundings. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on the enormous cauldron at the mouth of the volcano. A skinny figure was seated in front of the large cauldron in front of many eyes. Following the change in the seal formed by his hands, it appeared as though the temperature was controlled by him. The temperature was occasionally high and occasionally low. An ordinary person would have difficulty enduring such a drastic change in temperature. Elder Zhu Li was suspended in the sky. Both of his hands were placed behind him. His eyes were focused on the large cauldron, and his expression was completely solemn. Zhu Li, do you really think that he can refine the dragon phoenix crystal? An elderly voice suddenly sounded from behind. Elder Zhu Li tilted his head, only to see an old man with black and white hair standing behind him. This elder was dressed simply. His quietness and lack of a smile caused him to appear exceptionally stern. There is definitely some desirable aspects in him to be able to become the champion of the pill gathering. Although he is young, he appears extremely experienced from what I've learned about him during these 2 days. He has great perseverance and is unlike any young person his age. Elder Zhu Li's eyes returned to the skinny figure in front of the large cauldron as he replied, "You should be aware just what Ziyin means to our Eastern Dragon Island." The stern and quiet elder was silent for a moment before speaking again. "Elder Qiyu, there is no need to be overly worried. Although Xiaoyin is not the only one on the continent who possesses a heavenly flame ranked in the top 10, the current condition of our ancient Void Dragon tribe is not suitable to invite those fellows to come and help us." Elder Zhu Li shook his head and softly said, "Also, Ziyin asked that Xiaoyin be brought to help before she fell unconscious. Although this girl is young, she will not joke with her own life. Since she is able to say this, it is likely that she is very confident in Xiaoyin. Hopefully, Ziyin is currently the only person within the ancient Void Dragon tribe to possess a complete royal bloodline. If anything happens to her, it is likely that our ancient Void Dragon tribe will never be able to unite again." That old man called Qiyu nodded. He said, "Plus, the first elder and the second elder are all undertaking a complete retreat. No one knows just when they will come out. Without the two of them, our Eastern Dragon Island does not have an advantage among the 4 islands in terms of strength." Zhu Li softly sighed. He said, "It is pointless to think about this now. We should wait for the refinement to complete first. Additionally, the caution level must remain high. If the other 3 islands were to gain news, one cannot guarantee that they will not dispatch some experts over to probe. Those 3 islands' chiefs are all people with great ambition. They will definitely not allow someone with a true royal bloodline to appear. Otherwise, even if they could endure the pressure from the royal bloodline, the other tribe members will be completely united under the royal bloodline." Qiyu quietly nodded. He gave Xiaoyin, who's still seated in front of the large cauldron, a deep look. His body moved and slowly disappeared. At the same time, quite a number of auras from the hidden experts started disappearing. Zhu Li turned back to Xiaoyin after Qiyu disappeared. He softly said, "Xiaoyin, the fate of the future ancient Void Dragon tribe will be determined by you." Xiaoyin, who was beside the cauldron at the mouth of the volcano, appeared to hear Zhu Li's mutter. His eyebrows trembled and an unusually searing hot air was slowly spat out of his throat. "Coagulate." A soft voice was emitted from his throat along with his breath. The fire dragon within the large cauldron shook. It began to tremble. Everyone saw that the color of the fire dragon was beginning to turn from a whitish purple-brown into a mysterious dark purple. Roar! The fire dragon, which had transformed into a dark purple color, had also shrunk in size. However, the flame temperature within its body had suddenly soared. The frightening temperature was caused some members of the ancient Void Dragon tribe to change their facial expressions. Qi! A dark purple flame was continuously spat from the large mouth of the fire dragon. It ruthlessly adhered to the dragon phoenix crystal on Ziyin's body. The two made contact and waves of sizzling sounds immediately erupted. Under this kind of intense collision, that incomparably hard energy crystal finally revealed a drop of purple gold liquid in front of many joyous eyes. The dragon phoenix crystal has started to melt. Although that drop of purple gold liquid was extremely tiny, it still did not escape the experienced eyes of the many experts. Numerous suppressed voices of joy rang out. "Who?" Elder Zhu Li also quietly sighed in relief at this moment. His tightly clenched fists were slowly relaxed. Although this was only the first step, it at the very least indicated that Xiaoyin's heavenly flame was able to melt the dragon phoenix crystal. This beginning was already quite a joyous one. Subsequently, As long as Xiao Yin was able to endure, he would sooner or later completely melt the entire Dragon Phoenix crystal. Of course, Elder Zhu Li also understood that attempting to melt the Dragon Phoenix crystal would require a lot of time. However, one must eat things a mouthful at a time. No one could expect something like this to succeed immediately. With a good beginning, all they needed to do was wait quietly until the Dragon Phoenix crystal completely melted. 10 days flew by in the blink of an eye amid the wait. Xiao Yin did not rest even a little during these 10 days. The dou qi within his body had been completely exhausted twice, but he did not use the ancient dragon essence blood that Elder Zhu Li had given him during these 2 instances. Instead, he relied on the flame mantra, which had evolved to the Quasi-Tian class Qi method, to forcefully absorb the surrounding energy. Although this kind of absorption could not be compared with the rate at which his dou qi was exhausted, he was still able to endure by relying on some other dou qi recovery pills. During the 10 days, the dou qi within his body did not cease circulating for even a moment. This kind of determination caused even some tribe members of the ancient Void Dragon tribe to involuntarily feel some admiration. However, it was obvious that this could not continue on by simply relying on ordinary methods. Hence, on the 15th day, Xiao Yin was unable to endure this kind of exhaustion. Only then did he take out a drop of the ancient dragon essence blood that Elder Zhu Li had given him and swallowed it. Bang! A bright golden light was immediately emitted from Xiao Yin's skin when the ancient dragon essence blood entered his body. A vast and mighty energy swept through his body like a storm. His originally exhausted veins once again rapidly filled with a gushing amount of dou qi in an instant. When this kind of energy storm streaked through, Xiao Yin could sense that his bones, muscles, and veins were vaguely emitting a kind of unusual itchiness and soreness. Under this kind of feeling, it appeared as though his bones, muscles, etc. were all slowly becoming firmer and more powerful. Some marvel involuntarily appeared in Xiao Yan's heart when he sensed the changes within his body. This kind of energy could basically be compared with some high-tier medicinal pills. The ancient Void Dragon was indeed worthy of being in existence at the peak of the magical beast world. Just the strength of this essence blood possessed such a mysterious effect. Since this is the case, let's continue. Xiao Yin tightened his hand. His somewhat tired face revealed a faint smile. His eyes focused on the interior of the large cauldron. The Dragon Phoenix crystal on the surface of Ziyan's body appeared to have completely vanished, but its disappearance did not represent the end because the interior of Ziyan's body was still occupied by the solidified Dragon Phoenix crystal. Only after refining each crystal layer would Ziyan be able to awaken. After continuing the refinement, 1 month swiftly flowed by like sand between one's fingers. During this 1 month, all the tribe members of the ancient Void Dragon tribe were pleasantly surprised to see the Dragon Phoenix crystal on Ziyan's body become thinner. In the end, it completely vanished. With this pleasant change, a joyous atmosphere began to spread across the ancient Dragon Island. According to this speed, it was likely that the Dragon Phoenix crystal layers within Ziyan's body would be refined soon. At that time, an existence that possessed the true royal bloodline of the magical beast world would be born once again. A figure was seated in a haggard fashion in front of the enormous cauldron. By looking through the air around the figure, one could see a pair of eyes filled with traces of blood. Those eyes contained a tiredness and a frightening tenacity. Numerous gazes from around the mountain contained some respect as they focused on the skinny figure. During this 1 month, this figure had revealed a shocking perseverance that subdued the many naturally haughty ancient Void Dragon tribe members. Zhu Li slowly fondled his beard as he studied the back of the figure. The figure was still able to control the heavenly flame within the cauldron with great familiarity despite not having slept for a month. A moment later, Zhu Li softly sighed. There was a hint of envy in his voice. Elder Zhuli was just about to open his mouth to issue an instruction after sighing when a furious cry suddenly resounded over this empty realm in a thunderbolt-like fashion. Xiao, all of you are very bold. You actually dare to barge into my Eastern Dragon Island. Zhu Li's expression turned gloomy upon hearing this furious cry. He slowly raised his head and looked toward the empty space outside. Are they finally here? Numerous rays of light suddenly appeared in the empty space. A moment later, rays of light slowly descended to the ancient Dragon Island. The light scattered and numerous figures with powerful auras appeared. Most of these figures were wearing dark golden armor. There was a dragon image on their armor. The dragon seemed to vaguely be moving, appearing as though it was alive. It even appeared to be emitting wave after wave of a powerful dragon pressure. Other than these people wearing dark golden armor, there were some human figures with naked upper bodies. These people appeared quite large and strong. They had an awe-inspiring visual impact. It's the people from the Western Dragon Island and the Southern Dragon Island. Numerous voices that contained some anger immediately reverberated around the ancient Dragon Island when they saw these human figures. Xiao, you actually dare to lead people to my Eastern Dragon Island? What great ability! The space in the sky became distorted. Numerous figures appeared. The old man leading them was Elder Qiyu, who had chatted with Elder Zhuli back then. At this moment, his usually impassive face had become extremely stern. A mighty feeling without anger was vaguely emitted from him. Ha ha, old fellow Qiyu, you should not vent your anger on me. I am only here on orders to invite the great person with the royal bloodline back to the Western Dragon Island. A large man with thick eyebrows wearing a dark golden armor slowly took 2 steps forward. When he stepped forward, empty space appeared to tremble. He glanced at Qiyu, who was within a defensive barrier, and loudly laughed. I'm afraid that the Western Dragon King wishes to imprison the royal bloodline on the Western Dragon Island. No? Humph. He is merely a branch of the royal bloodline. Yet he dares to call himself a Dragon King. Isn't he afraid of killing himself? Qiyu coldly laughed. The large man called Xiao faintly said, the current ancient dragon tribe has split into 4. Regardless of the reason, the Western Dragon King possesses a royal bloodline. He has a stronger gathering ability than you people with ordinary bloodlines. If one were to talk about it, your Eastern Dragon Island is the one that should not exist. Among the 4 islands, only your island is not led by someone with a royal bloodline. This kind of existence will not be accepted. It is not up to the other 3 Dragon Kings to decide what is acceptable or not. The ancient Void Dragon tribe does not have whatever North, South, East, or West Dragon Kings. It only has the former Dragon Emperor. The remainder do not possess any qualification to implement any tribe rules. Qiyu raised his eyebrows as he replied, Hee hee, I am also too lazy to utter any nonsense to you, old fellow. This time around, I have come under orders. Please hand over the great person who possesses a royal bloodline. Otherwise, this matter will really likely not end well. Xiao curled his mouth as he made a demand. Because of you? Qiyu's expression turned cold. He clenched his fist, and a frightening energy hurriedly gathered. Qiyu. In terms of combat strength, your Eastern Dragon Island is the weakest among the 4 islands. If my Western Dragon Island's Dragon Armor Army were to invade, this Eastern Dragon Island would not be able to endure for long. Xiao waved his hand when he saw that Qiyu was preparing to fight. The dark golden human figures behind him slowly stepped forward. A powerful pressure gathered and spread toward the Dragon Island. When this pressure spread, the expression of Elder Zhuli, who was deep within the Dragon Island, slowly became gloomy. He looked at Xiaoyin, who was still seated in front of the large cauldron. He said in a deep voice, all of you should protect Mr. Xiaoyin properly. Do not allow any accidents to occur to him. Understood. Some low and deep cries were emitted from the surrounding mountains when Elder Zhu Li's voice sounded. Zhu Li only nodded upon hearing their replies. His body moved and disappeared in a strange manner. The next time he appeared, he was already in front of Qi Yu's body. He lifted his head and swept his calm eyes over the human figures suspended in empty space. It paused on the group of large human figures with naked upper bodies. The Dragon Armor Army from the Western Dragon Island and the Barbarian Dragon Army from the Southern Dragon Island. The elite fighters of these two islands have been dispatched. May I know who is the commander of the Barbarian Dragon Army? Haha, you are indeed worthy of being Elder Zhu Li. The old me is still discovered by you even though I am hiding by the side. The empty space slowly became distorted after Elder Zhu Li's voice sounded. A pale-skinned elder wearing simple skin clothes appeared from nowhere and laughed at Elder Zhu Li within the Dragon Island. It is actually Elder Man Yin. Elder Zhu Li glanced at this elder. His voice did not contain too much fluctuation as he indifferently spoke. Elder Zhu Li, hand the person over. We have come under orders. The ancient Void Dragon tribe has already become like this. I think that it will be extremely difficult to unite the tribe again. The three great dragon kings will not allow such a thing to happen. Man Yin sighed. He looked at Zhu Li before speaking in a deep voice. What nonsense! Handover? Do you really think that my Eastern Dragon Island can be bullied? If the first elder and second elder weren't both undertaking a deep retreat, would the three islands dare to come to my Eastern Dragon Island to act arrogantly? A figure suddenly rushed to the sky. He cried out loud without being afraid of the pressure that spread from the many experts from the Western Dragon Island. Hey Qing, you still possess this terrible temper that asks to be beaten up. Xiao glanced at He Qing. After which, he turned to Man Yin and said, We do not have much time to waste. Let's attack. After his words sounded, the dark golden dragon armor on Xiao's body suddenly emitted a bright golden light. A monstrous aura swept out of their bodies like a storm. A deep dragon roar was faintly emitted from the golden light. Dragon Armor Army, attack. Bring back the great person who possesses the royal bloodline. Xiao suddenly waved his hand. The many figures wearing dragon armor all let out a stern cry in unison. Fierce auras surged out. They transformed into numerous rays of light that charged explosively into the ancient Dragon Island. Ugh, let's attack. Man Yin sighed and gave a command when he saw them attack. The human figures with naked upper bodies nodded when they heard his order. Their arms rapidly shook when they clenched their fists. In the blink of an eye, their two arms transformed into dragon claws that were covered with pale purple scales. Their bodies flashed and charged into the ancient Dragon Island. Stop them! Elder Zhu Li cried out in a deep voice. His face turned gloomy when he saw the many figures charging into the Dragon Island. Understood. Numerous blurry figures suddenly charged over from the ancient Dragon Island after Elder Zhu Li's voice sounded. In an instant, vast and mighty auras swept over the sky. The muffled sound of flesh colliding violently with other flesh and the loud explosions of energy resonated across the sky. Bang! He Qing, who wore a gloomy expression, violently punched a person with a naked upper body whose hands had turned into dragon claws. The person spat out blood and withdrew. Before he could once again charge forward, Elder Zhu Li had appeared in front of him. He Qing, go and protect Xiao Yin. Do not allow any accidents to happen to him. Leave this place to me. Elder Zhu Li spoke in a deep voice. Although He Qing was a little unwilling to leave the battlefield, he also understood Xiao Yan's importance at this moment. At that moment, he could only clench his teeth. His body pulled back with lightning-like speed. Within a couple of flashes, he entered the deepest part of the ancient Dragon Island. Zhu Li, allow the old me to be your opponent. After dispatching He Qing to protect Xiao Yin, Elder Zhu Li's eyes focused on the space in front of him. The grayish-white-skinned Man Yin was slowly appearing at that spot. At this moment, his body was beginning to form some purple dragon scales. His hands had also become sharp dragon claws. Man Yin had turned into a half-human half-dragon with a dragon body, dragon claws, and dragon arms. An extremely monstrous aura slowly spread from Man Yan's body after the transformation was complete. Even the surrounding space had become extremely distorted as a result. We have not met for many years. I wonder if the current you have broken through the Dozun class. Man Yan's eyes also revealed a dark purple color because of the transformation of his body. He smiled at Zhu Li, and his feet gently pressed down. An intense fluctuation suddenly appeared. His body was like lightning as it appeared in front of Elder Zhu Li in an instant. He waved a dragon claw, and a frightening energy followed. Bang, bang, bang. The entire ancient Dragon Island erupted with earth-shaking sounds. Numerous battlegrounds appeared in the sky above the Dragon Island. The originally calm and quiet atmosphere no longer existed at this moment. Two of the Dragon Islands had dispatched their elite forces. This fighting strength could wash any top-tier faction in the Central Plains with blood. In the face of this sudden sneak attack, the Eastern Dragon Island was initially caught off guard. Fortunately, it possessed quite a number of experts. After experiencing the initial chaos, the battle was finally stabilized. While the Dragon Island had descended into an intense fight, the deepest part of the Dragon Island still maintained a peacefulness. A frightening temperature still spread over the mouth of the volcano. Within the large cauldron, Ziyan's body, which was originally hard, slowly regained its softness. One could vaguely sense a terrifying ocean-like energy flowing within her body. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. He Qing's expression was solemn as he stared at the interior of the large cauldron from the air. Suddenly a wave of rushing wind sounds were transmitted from the distance. This caused his expression to change a little. He turned his head, only to see 10 exceptionally fierce auras rushing over with lightning-like speed. Stop them. Do not allow them to disturb Xiaoyan. He Qing coldly cried out when he saw these fellows barging over. Chi-chi. He Qing's cry had just sounded when numerous human figures quickly rushed forward and stopped the human figures in the distance. A big battle erupted immediately upon contact. Although those who had come were blocked, He Qing's expression remained quite ugly. He understood that the last Northern Dragon Island would definitely not sit back and do nothing since the Western and Southern Islands had received word. With the strength that the Eastern Dragon Island currently possessed, stopping an attack by these two islands was already extremely difficult. If the Northern Dragon Island were to intervene, it would really be dangerous. He Qing clenched his fist as his eyes focused intently on the skinny young man seated in front of the huge cauldron. He muttered, "Xiaoyan, be quicker." Bang, bang, bang. An intense energy rippled across the sky like muffled thunder, resonating above the Dragon Island. Xiaoyan, who was seated in front of the large cauldron, appeared to be unable to sense the chaotic situation that existed in the outside world. His blood-filled eyes were staring at the inside of the large cauldron. His hands were stiff as he formed a seal and controlled the temperature. This 1 month without rest and the need to perform such a frightening task would be enough to tire an expert at the peak of the Dozun class to the point of exhaustion. However, Xiaoyan had endured this bitter struggle. Despite his endurance, his mind had become blurry at this moment. He Qing's eyes were anxiously staring at the disheveled Xiaoyan. His fist slowly tightened. He was aware that Xiaoyan was already at his limit. Xiaoyan's mind had been extremely tense during this period of time and had never relaxed even a little. Continuing like this would cause him great damage. This fellow is really extremely ruthless to himself. If the matter this time around can be resolved, Old He, will become sworn brothers with you and fight anyone that you ask me to. He Qing softly muttered to himself. Even someone as proud as him had no choice but to be impressed by Xiao Yan. Bang! He Qing's voice had just sounded when an earth-shaking sound was transmitted from the distance. Immediately, a ferocious aura rushed over with lightning-like speed. Before the figure had arrived, a wild and unchecked laugh rolled around like thunder. Ha ha, it is actually here. After the wild and rampant laughter was transmitted over from the distance, that figure arrived near the volcano within a couple of flashes, after which it slowly reduced its speed. Everyone glanced over and saw that it was a man wearing dark golden armor. The man's eyes were golden in color. His face also contained a faint fierceness. The fourth commander of the Dragon Armor Army, Xia Sha? He Qing was slightly startled when he saw this person. He immediately frowned. With a gentle wave of his hand, over a dozen figures rushed out of the surrounding mountain forests. They cautiously watched this man called Xia Sha. He Qing? He, it is unexpected that I have meet you here. Xia Sha watched He Qing standing in front of him. Both of his eyes narrowed, but he did not say any unnecessary words. With a wave of his hand, many figures with great murderous intent charged forward from behind him. A mighty dragon roar reverberated across the sky. He Qing's expression sank when he saw them. He nodded, and the dozen-plus experts from the eastern Dragon Islands swiftly rushed out. They blocked those human figures wearing dark golden dragon armor. He Qing, obediently hand over that great person. Otherwise, blood will flow like a river through your eastern Dragon Island today. Xia Sha loudly laughed. His body flashed and appeared about a dozen meters in front of He Qing. They looked at each other. Sparks shot between their eyes and a frightening energy quietly poured out. We will have to see whether you, Xia Sha, has the qualifications to snatch this person. He Qing's expression was dark and solemn. His fist was suddenly clenched, and he threw a ruthless punch. A dark black line was immediately formed. Soon after, this dark black spatial crack rapidly swam toward Xia Sha. Humph! Xia Sha also let out a cold snort when he saw He Qing's attack. His body did not give in a little as he suddenly threw a punch that violently collided with the dark black line. Bang! An incomparably powerful force spread out in a ripple. Xia Sha's body trembled before swiftly stabilizing. His foot stomped on the sky, and his body appeared beside He Qing in a ghost-like fashion. A ferocious storm-like attack was launched with lightning-like speed. He Qing let out a cold laugh when faced with Xia Sha's attack. He let out that cold laugh and did not give in. Instead, he collided head-on with Xia Sha. Bang, bang, bang. The two figures violently collided together in the sky. Each time a fist moved, it would cause the surrounding air to emit a sonic boom. The only quiet place had also become chaotic when the two began to fight. However, the skinny figure seated in front of the large cauldron did not show the slightest activity despite this. Bang! Two figures collided in the air. Fighting energy shook and tore space itself, forming a 100-foot-wide dark black hole. These two fighting figures also separated upon contact before pulling back. It is really unexpected. The current you is also advanced to the Bansheng class. Man Yan's footsteps staggered back. The deep purple dragon scales on his body had become much dimmer at this moment. Both of his eyes stared at Zhu Li a short distance away as he spoke in a deep voice. Zhu Li's face was without expression. His strength was similar to that of Man Yan, but Man Yan possessed a special secret technique that could turn him into a half-dragon, half-human for combat, making him quite troublesome to deal with. Hence, it was quite a difficult task to defeat the other party. Zhu Li, do not continue any pointless resistance. The strength of your eastern Dragon Island is the weakest among the 4 islands. Currently, the 3 islands are working together. There is no way for all of you to resist. You should hand the person over, Man Yan slowly said. If the elders of my eastern Dragon Island hadn't entered the emptiness to train while the first elder and the second elder are undertaking a deep retreat. Forget about you. Even the three great dragon kings would not dare to come here. Zhu Li coldly laughed. Ha ha, Zhu Li, you should also be aware that it is only an if. Zhu Li's cold laugh had just rang out when a soft laugh was suddenly transmitted from empty space. Zhu Li's expression immediately became ugly when this soft laugh was heard. His eyes stared intently at empty space. Northern Dragon Island has finally appeared, huh? The empty space suddenly emitted numerous green lights in front Zhu Li's focused eyes. The green light rapidly became bigger. Numerous human figures rode the green light. They carried a monstrous aura as they appeared in the sky above the Dragon Island. Wave after wave of rushing wind could be heard. It seems that I am late. However, it is fortunate that I did not miss the main event. A green-robed elder in the sky looked at the chaotic ancient Dragon Island. He involuntarily smiled as he spoke. Qing Yin. Zhu Li's heart completely sank when he saw this green-robed elder. These three great dragon kings did indeed act in a grand manner. They had actually dispatched one Banshong and two experts at the peak of the Dozun class. It seemed that they really intended on taking Ziyin at all cost. The old man called Qing Yin glanced at the gloomy-faced Zhu Li after he appeared. He laughed before turning to the deepest part of the Dragon Island. He said, Elder Man Yin, you will block Zhu Li. The old me shall personally bring that great person who possesses a royal bloodline away. Qing Yin moved after uttering those words. He turned into a light figure that rushed toward the deepest part of this Dragon Island. Zhu Li became extremely furious upon seeing this. However, Man Yin blocked him before he could give chase. Man Yin's dragon claws danced, cutting through the air to rush toward Zhu Li. Bastard! Zhu Li was furious after being blocked by Man Yin. Monstrous Do Qi explosively surged out of his body. Zhu Li ruthlessly rushed toward the Man Yin. While Zhu Li was blocked by Man Yin, that old man called Qing Yin appeared above the volcano within a couple of flashes. Qing Yin glanced at Xiao Yin, who was seated in front of the large cauldron. His eyes then paused on the interior of the large cauldron. His brows were knit slightly as he muttered, That is the great person who possesses a royal bloodline, huh? She is only a child. However, the pressure of her bloodline already gives me a clue to her identity. Bring the person away first. Unexpected occurrences might happen if we delay. Qing Yin was unwilling to remain for long after arriving. His body moved, and he was just about to attack when a figure flashed and appeared a short distance in front of him. That figure was Tai Jianzunjia. He was without expression. His hand tightly held his metal sword while staring at Qing Yin. An indifferent feeling quietly spread. You are seeking death. Qing Yin knit his brows when he saw Tai Jianzunjia blocking him. With his strength at the peak of the Dozun class, he would naturally not be concerned with Tai Jianzunjia. He waved his sleeve, and an energy storm appeared in front of him. It rushed toward Tai Jianzunjia in a lightning-like fashion. Qi. Tai Jianzunjia's expression remained indifferent. It appeared as though he could not see the gap between him and Qing Yin. He raised his large sword up and immediately hacked it down in a simple manner. The sword landed. Tai Jianzunjia's expression immediately became weary. It was as though all of his Do Qi had disappeared with this sword. At the same time, a palm-sized light emitted a Qi sound as it rushed from the tip of his sword. Finally, it collided with that storm. Bang! The two first stilled upon collision. Soon after, a frightening energy whirlwind explosively surged out. Grug! The light sword was above the storm. The weary-faced Tai Jianzunjia immediately spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His body appeared to suffer a heavy blow, and he landed in the forest below. You really don't know your limits. The corner of Qing Yan's mouth was lifted in disdain after all it took was a wave of his hand to defeat Tai Jianzunjia. Someone of Tai Jian Zunja's strength dared to show himself. He really was seeking death. Brat, stop your flame. Qing Yin stepped through empty space after defeating Tai Jian Zunja. He slowly walked toward Xiao Yin and indifferently ordered him. However, the shriveled Xiao Yin appeared to have not heard his voice. His blood-filled eyes were staring intently at the interior of the large cauldron. Another one who seeks death. Qing Yin's footsteps slowly halted beside Xiao Yin. He shook his head when he received no response. He slowly raised his hand. Dou Qi surged as he ruthlessly smashed at the top of Xiao Yan's head. While Qing Yan's hand was violently smashing down, the tightly shut eyes of the girl within the cauldron were suddenly opened. An icy cold voice that contained an immeasurable amount of pressure resounded beside Qing Yan's ear. It was like thunder that reverberated through his soul, causing his body to instantly still. If he loses even a strand of hair, you shall use your life as repayment.